Really nice commercial there. You've definitely had some practice at that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Please. All right. Can I get a thumbs up if it's working? Sweet. All right. All right. Before we start, my name is Jeff Yellen, and this is Components of a Supportive and Collaborative APE Program. And I'm joined with Ashley Rosenfeld. Thanks, Ashley, for helping. All right. I think I made that full screen. All right. While we wait a second or two, if you want to throw in the chat who you are, your job title, where you're repping today, Virginia, New York, California, maybe a different country. That's awesome. Throw it in there. And what is something that you want, need, or wish to have more support and related to adapted PE? I'm going to give everybody just a couple seconds, maybe get a response in. I'm going to organize my screen. As soon as I shared it, everything changed. I'll give a couple more seconds and then we'll start. I see PG County. LJ, nice to see you, LJ, virtually. Hope the kids are doing well. Come back if you want to. All right, I'm seeing some itinerant teachers, AP specialist, assistive technology, super cool. Texas, G. Not-for-profit in New York. We have 2 New Yorkers right here with you. Julie, it's cool. Rochester, all right. We're both Brockport grads. Very cool. But then we moved far away. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to get rolling. So please stop me if we're having technology issues, and any questions you can throw in the chat. All right, a little bit about myself. This is my 12th year of teaching adapted PE and in Fairfax County. I'm an itinerant teacher, so that means I'm traveling between a bunch of different schools. I support students kindergarten through grade 10 in about 8 different schools. And that's not super typical of our program, but as other itinerants know, that can be pretty typical in the world of itinerant APE. I'm a 2-time graduate of SUNY Brockport. I did my Camp Abilities grad assistantship with Dr. Lieberman. And then I worked for a bunch of years at Camp Abilities Saratoga. For those who don't know, Camp Abilities is a sports camp for kids who are blind, visually impaired, and deafblind. I highly recommend it. My favorite sport is hockey. I'm trying to get that little guy there, Beckett, to like hockey too, but he'll have his own road. I'll let Ashley go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, yes, I'm Ashley. I am also an itinerant adaptive physical education teacher. Started at the same time as Jeff did in our county. So this is also my 12th year of teaching, and I'm currently supporting students at the elementary level. I'm also the lead mentor for our program. Received my undergraduate at Brockport, just as Jeff did, and my master's at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse.
I don't know if Ashley will tell you she's a Bills fan. She left that out the bottom. All right. So what we're going to talk about today, the overarching theme of our presentation is to highlight the supports that we have in Fairfax County Public Schools, with the hope that you see something that could be brought to your place of work, your county, your school district, whatever. Whether that's an idea of a different report template, or maybe trying to get a mentorship program going, something like that. But to get there, we'll talk just a little bit about Fairfax County. We'll talk about our itinerant adapted PE program. We'll talk about the levels of support within our program that we have to offer, from our educational specialists all the way down to our itinerants. We'll talk about the collaboration opportunities and how everybody gets to have a say with something that they choose, if they choose. We'll talk about the professional development opportunities that we offer, both from the leadership standpoint and the colleague professional development standpoint. And we'll talk about different platforms of support. We have a really robust website that sort of houses a lot of different things, different report templates, different ideas and strategies, all that different stuff. And then we'll definitely take some time for questions and concerns from the group. All right, so a little bit about Fairfax County Public Schools. We are pretty close. We are in the backyard of Washington, D.C. We are a huge district, over 180,000 students throughout about 200 schools and centers. If you think about the continuum of special education, we have our typical schools, we have and then we have a lot of different sites in our county going all the way to public day. And then we'll support students that need a more intense level of support, and we'll match them up with the school in the surrounding area that works for them. We have about 25,000 students with disabilities, and it looks like about 10% of those students, over 2,500, have adaptive PE services. In terms of our specific itinerant program, this year we have 52 itinerant teachers. Each of those teachers have a caseload. Caseloads consist of about 3 to 6 schools and about 30 to 45 students. I'll show a chart in a second, which really visually shows this, but we have one educational specialist, and that's Brad. We have a lead teacher, Katie, who gave us, who ran a session, I think a couple minutes or an hour before this. And then we have 6 geographical teams, each with a team leader. And then we have some collaborative learning teams, which we'll talk about, and we have a mentoring program, which we'll get into all of those. This is sort of our program overview. So at the top, we have our educational specialist, Brad. He's a central office position, but I would say multiple times a week, he is in the schools observing and supporting the itinerant teachers and school-based adaptive PE teachers, because those also fall under his purview too. Sort of going down under Brad, we have Katie, who's our lead teacher. She supports our mentor program and mentors and mentees, and answers a lot of other questions. We have our team leaders that are in charge of that geographical area in terms of caseload development. And we're also a line of support for our itinerant teachers, so that they all don't rush up and ask Brad with every single question. I will try to answer a lot of my team's questions before they go to Brad. And a lot of the time it's, hey, Jeff, have you ever been to this school or know this teacher? I'm having a situation with that teacher. And Brad might not know that teacher because, like I said, there's 200 schools in our county, but each of those team leaders might have a better boots on the ground outlook about some different schools and situations. And then we have our 52 itinerant teachers. And then you'll see some different things below that give them some different opportunities in our county. We have the different CLTs. Everybody is a peer reviewer. So when we do our evaluations, the TGMD or the DAISY or whatever, we'll submit our report to a peer reviewer who takes a look at it and sends some comments back. We'll talk about all these too, but we have our national conference presenter. We have some peer observations in Google Colab. And then we have our CLTs down here, and we'll get into all of these in a little bit. But as you see, here's our overview. And now we're going to talk about, some of these things a little bit more in depth and the opportunity and the supports that are built into those. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley for a little bit.
Perfect. So Jeff kind of just gave that overview. We're just going to delve a little bit deeper into maybe some of those roles. I know he kind of just touched on them. So as he mentioned, the educational specialist is the one who oversees all of the itinerant teachers as well as the school-based teachers. That's kind of our go-to for anything related to special education, APE, those things that maybe are more contentious. He might be able to attend some of those meetings to support those teachers out in the schools. And Brad also supports the program in coming up with ideas for professional development, making sure we're staying up to date on different things. And we'll talk a little bit about some of our professional development days in a little bit. As he mentioned, Katie is our lead teacher. So she is kind of the one that supports the lead mentor and the educational specialist. So with the lead mentor and the new teachers, she gets an opportunity to go out to see everybody throughout the year in their classroom. So she's kind of out there doing that piece, and she's able to provide support with like classroom management or lesson planning or just any of those questions that she's out there for. And then she also is in close collaboration with Brad, the educational specialist. She might be fielding questions throughout the week from itinerants or team leaders or anybody, and then she's able to bring those back and share some of that information with the educational specialist. Team leaders, as Jeff was mentioning, they support that geographical area. They can receive those questions before it kind of goes up that hierarchy. They're also the ones that are going to be drafting caseloads at the end of the year to make sure that everyone has their next year's schedule and ready to go. And they also help with monthly schedule building. So any questions related to that, conflicts that may arise, if a teacher is not able to go see a student for that week, they can help kind of find coverage within that team. And then mentors, there is a lead mentor who oversees the mentor program. And through the mentoring program, we do hold weekly meetings with the new teachers. And then the mentors also get together with a lead mentor each week prior to those meetings to discuss the upcoming agendas, make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. So new teachers are all receiving the same information from week to week throughout the year. So our mentor program, when we meet each week, the meetings are about 90 minutes. That's kind of the average or the recommended time frame. They may be a little bit more or less depending on the new teacher's experience or questions for that week and kind of what they're hitting the ground running with. But there is also support provided throughout the year with their first IEP meeting. So we definitely support those new teachers in developing their strengths and needs and kind of how to build up objectives to support that overall goal that they're writing. There is also support with the first APE evaluation that they go out and complete. So if they're going to do their first TGMD or their first DAISY, that mentor may go out with them or pair them with a veteran teacher in the county to make sure that they have support. They get to see setup firsthand with that veteran teacher. They get to see how the assessment might be run and what are some tips and tricks that they have found when administering an assessment. And then they also have that support with scoring for their first time to make sure they understand how to score and taking in all those standardized pieces. Mentors also provide support with writing reports. So just making sure that they're following some of those report templates that Jeff briefly touched on and getting those ready to present to teams. And then just throughout the year, that mentor is there for that new teacher to make sure that they are able to navigate some of those sticky situations or I didn't expect this, what can we do here? And the great thing about the mentor and that relationship with the new teacher is they are not evaluative in any function. So they're there as a support system. They're just another colleague there for them for that first year. They're not able to kind of speak to principals or the educational specialist from an evaluative standpoint. So that gives them that safe space to talk and make sure they have someone to go to when things come up throughout the year. So for that mentoring, you're going to see in a second kind of some agenda topics. So if you were thinking of creating a mentoring program in your area and you were like, okay, what would we talk about each week for these 90 minutes? And it's crazy to think how much really does come up and that time flies by. And each of these topics are kind of reintroduced over and over again throughout the year. One of the things we always tell our new teachers is this won't be the first time you hear something. And it won't be the last time you hear something. So thinking about how we break things up in Q1, some of the biggest things that some of our new teachers will run into is just how do I create my schedule? I have all of these students that I need to go out to see. How do I fit them all in? What does my week look like? What does my month look like? We also talk about data collection. So how do we, I know some people were just in the last session talking about breaking down skills and how do we take data? So we talk about some strategies for taking data both in the general education setting as well as that small group setting, and kind of those tips and tricks that maybe that veteran teacher has found, although we know that's an ever-changing thing. We talk about goal writing because that might be the first time they're getting prepared for their first IEP. And then at the end of the quarter, we spend some time talking about progress report writing. So we kind of share with them like how you might code a student's progress report and making sure that they have their data that they've been taking all year included in their comments to share with families about how the student has been doing. For quarter two, we spend some time talking about the AP referral process. So, you know, figuring out how to navigate school teams, special education teachers, and general PE teachers when they come to this new teacher and say, hey, Johnny's been having difficulty in PE. Are we able to request an assessment, or is there a way for him to get services? So we help them understand and give some guidance on how to get that process started. And then we also spend some additional time talking about writing and presenting evaluation reports to parents and school teams. So it might be their first time they're going out to share with parents what were the results of an evaluation and what are the recommendations to the team. So that support is provided usually during that second quarter. During quarter three, we touch on the topic of dismissal from APE services. Again, if this happens earlier in the year, you know, that conversation would be had at that time, but we just talk about what are the things that a student would need to be able to do in order to think about dismissing a student from APE services, and then how to start that process with the school team and making sure they have the data to support that discussion. Quarter three is also usually the time where we spend some time talking through transitioning to the next level. So our students that might be going from elementary to middle or middle to high school, and some of the considerations those new teachers would have to kind of keep in the back of their mind and share with teams and parents in discussing what services are going to be required as they get ready for that next year. And then most of our schools in this area do field day towards the end of the year. Some have done some fall field days, so this might be a conversation that gets bumped up for a new teacher. But since most are talking about that end of the year time, we talk about preparation for field day. So how do you support students at multiple schools if field day is happening at each school all in the same day? What should you share with parents in terms of how to prepare that student? What do they need to bring that day? Making sure that everybody that's working with those students at field day, instructional assistants, parents, volunteers, know what modifications can be in place at each of the stations or games that are being prepared. And then the last quarter is just kind of that preparing for next year. There's a lot of conversation with that with our new teachers to make sure they have all of their information in for the educational specialist and the team leader for developing caseloads, as well as also making sure all of our paperwork for each student file is up to date. So we want to make sure that everything is ready to go. So when students start school the next year, they're able to start rolling right away from day one with their service time.
All right, thanks, Ashley. So moving on to different collaborative learning teams that we have a couple different ones. Our assessment team has spent the last few years really honing in on some modified health assessments, specifically for kids grades 7 to 10 in Virginia. Phys ed is phys ed and health and phys ed. So a quarter of the year in that grade is spent doing health content. So we want to prepare our itinerants to modify content as needed. And we also have training for standardized assessments. Every first year teacher will explicitly be trained in those assessments, and we'll offer some optional training throughout the years for the same assessments that we use. And then when we bring new ones in, we'll have a big training for that. I would say probably one of the most used things in our program is our goal bank. It's comprised of 150 to 200 maybe different goals, from object control, locomotor, all the way to self-advocacy and fitness. And each each goal has a data sheet attached that you can download and obviously edit for each student. So even if I'm like, all right, I want to do a throwing goal, I can go on there, look, all right, and I have a couple different ones. Am I throwing for accuracy, or am I throwing for quality? So if it's me, I'm all right, I can look down. All right, I see a throwing goal, stepping overhand, stepping in opposition, you know, uh, hand to ear, and follow through. Boom, download, change the kid's name. If there's anything else, well, I don't want 15 feet. I think that's too far. I can change it to 10. Boom. I do think that is a huge support that we have for our itinerants in this county. Not necessarily just a copy and paste, but it's a great starting point for those who need it. We have a technology CLT. Our organizer is very emphatic about technology. That he'll throw out different ideas for data sheets, for help with Schoology, which is like our learning platform that we use. We have a new CLT that one of our newer itinerants suggested a year or so ago, and it's an innovation CLT, and that's where people will get together and create different things. Maybe it's like an adapted hockey stick for a kid in a wheelchair, or maybe it's sharing how you can use a leaf blower to keep a beach ball in the air to practice striking or something, so I'm excited to see what's going to come from that CLT. Another CLT that we have, which I think is really unique, is our caring culture CLT. Other places might call it like a social committee or something like that. They plan group outings, they'll plan happy hours, we plan end of the year functions, lunches for our program, surprises. We call it the pony, but it's like our intra school mail. Every Halloween I always get a little piece of candy, and it's just every on everyone's birthday it's a big email blast. It's just in a county that's geographically big and we have 50 of us there, you can sort of feel like you're on an island sometimes. So I think the caring culture CLT does a really good job of being like, hey, we are a team, let's get together, let's talk about the successes we're having and maybe some problems we're having. I have a feeling that a lot of the academic teachers, they feel that throughout their day, and we might not feel that throughout our day, just because as a lot of you you might not run into a lot of adaptive PE teachers on your daily basis. And I remember starting years ago and going to those happy hours and making it feel like that is what kept me in our program, having that support, especially coming from New York. And I didn't, moving to Virginia, didn't really know anybody, but knowing that CLT was doing things that would keep me engaged in our program was really, really cool. And sort of our last CLT is our leadership team, comprised of our educational specialist, lead teacher, team leaders, lead mentor, and then occasionally we'll bring in our CLT leads, like our goal bank lead and our assessment lead. We usually meet monthly with a specific agenda, gets everybody on the same page. And then as we get towards the end of the year, we'll probably start talking about caseloads and prepping for next year. Aside from CLTs, some collaboration opportunities that are available. We started this a couple of years ago, some Google collab sessions. So it's where colleagues lead a virtual session for anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes in something that they feel comfortable in. So just like Amanda led your last session on data collection, or she's done Google collab sessions on that. We've had them for prep for field day, for health and driver's ed content, totally optional. Someone's talking for half the time, and then the other half is discussion. And I like that we record them. So like there are some that I haven't been able to get to live, but for health and drivers that I had a question in my mind. So I popped onto that. I found that Google Collab session on our website, watched a little of it, saw, oh, my question was answered, boom. We use a GroupMe app if you want to share some things through text or whatever. And then, like I briefly talked about, we have some colleague observations. So every year we'll go out to at least two of our colleagues and see what else is out there. You don't really know what's out there unless you get out there and look at different things. And it's never evaluative. It's just supportive. Always share a positive thing we saw and something that we would like to take back and incorporate into our own work.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. And just continuing on with professional development opportunities. So as a program, we also meet quarterly, either virtually or in person. And it's a great time for the 50 of us, again, because it's such a big group, to get together and share both personal and professional updates that might be going on. It's also an opportunity. We've had times where we can share lesson ideas or build equipment or like visual schedules. So sometimes it's a make and take opportunity for the group so that when you go back to your school the next day, you have something you can apply right away. If it's virtual, and we did do in person this last time, we had some breakout sessions that were led by colleagues. So again, Jeff was saying, everyone has an opportunity to have a voice in the program if they want to. And so someone can lead a session that they feel comfortable with, and that might be the topic for there, or some breakout sessions just might be an opportunity for a group of people to get together and talk about a specific topic. So one of the topics just might be like, how do I support students in an enhanced autism small group class? And even if there's not someone leading that specific breakout session with an agenda, the group would be able to get together and just kind of bounce ideas off each other. Someone might be able to say, hey, I've been having this problem. Oh, me too. And this is what we were able to do to solve that. So it's a great opportunity to share out with each other. Our program also has weekly emails that are sent out from the educational specialist. And this is a great way for him to stay in contact with all of us and to provide that continuity among the big program. So those emails might have things about updates on SPED or APE laws that need to be shared. It might be specific program updates, or it might be things that are just relevant to schools, our travel, and jobs. So it's a great way for us to quickly get a weekly blast as a group and stay on the same page for that week ahead. And then, as Jeff mentioned, we do have a lot of great support platforms. So one is our APE Google site, and it has so much information on there. But one of the things it has is when we're doing assessments and evaluations for our students, there's some templates for reports. So that kind of gives somebody, as they're getting ready to write, okay, these are the kind of areas that I should include for teams. I went out to observe the student. I did my standardized assessment. I did some consultation with other staff members. So maybe what's going on in the classroom during the day, what's going on in the gym. So it's not just that one-time view of the student, but what does everyone see more on a day-to-day basis? So there's templates for all different levels. And there's some standardized tools that are done, as well as some non-standardized assessments. The assessment, or the Google site, I'm sorry, also has opportunities for community activities. So that's really helpful. I know some new teachers have shared if they're new to the area and parents are asking for opportunities to get out to summer camps or other programs outside of school, and they may not be familiar with the area. There's a whole bunch of resources and flyers that they could go onto the Google site, print, download, and share with families at IEP meetings, or just via email when parents are requesting them throughout the year. As Jeff talked about the goal bank, we also had some modified assessment banks. So these assessments had linked directly to the PE curriculum and the general education assessments. And they were quick things that people could modify and use for their students. And they had some pictures included. They might have had reduced language. reduced choices. So instead of a general PE teacher just kind of verbally asking a question, the itinerant would be able to download, kind of adjust that assessment and present it to their student to get that same information for the general education teacher. As Jeff also mentioned, we are all peer reviewers within our program. So everybody is assigned a colleague throughout the year that you're able to read their evaluation report before they present it to families. And that's an opportunity to make sure that grammar and all of those things are there, but also that your report makes sense as you're kind of narrowing down to maybe what your recommendation would be to the team. So that's a great way to have that feedback from another colleague, another set of eyes on your report before you present it to everybody else. And then I know there are some people asking about the catapult in the picture. And so that website does have some support for creating their own equipment. So there's going to be pictures or instructions for developing like bowling ramps made out of PVC piping. And so if you aren't able to afford equipment, the specialized equipment at some of your schools, you could go on, download those instructions and be able to kind of put them together from that Google site. And then the Schoology group, Jeff also kind of touched on, but with that, a unique piece of that is those colleague observations that we go out and do. It's helpful for Jeff to go out see two colleagues and for me to go see two colleagues. But the great thing about the Schoology group is there's a discussion page where we can share pictures or share a little write-up about what we saw. So that way I can go in and see 100 different lessons that were done throughout the year if everyone's going out to see two people. So that way it's not just that small bubble, it's kind of expanding again to everyone in the area. And then the last support system that we kind of touched on is lesson picks. And so that is something that the county has provided all of us access to. And this is a great way for everyone to kind of go in and be able to make their own visual schedules, game boards, social stories, token boards, and it has a lot of pre-populated pictures. So you're not going into Google and trying to search for all these things and put it all together. And then we are able to, on the support platform, the Google site, download things that other people have created and shared to kind of save some time, steal things that other people have already been putting together. And then the last piece, I think we've kind of highlighted a few times throughout this presentation, is just that everybody's creativity is encouraged throughout the program. So here's just a few different things that people might be kind of going out and doing, but several itinerants have worked with their schools to either create or participate and support in Special Olympics programs that their schools are running. They also might help try to plan some field trips or community-based instruction, like going out to bowling alleys or nature walks or mini golf, and kind of getting our kids out and about, and we support some of that. Some of our teachers have been part of like outside of school wheelchair sports activities and wheelchair basketball and trying to promote that across the county for more students to be able to get involved in. And kind of that last piece is everyone has their own spin on things and just kind of how to use maybe like technology to make routines more exciting and accessible for some of our students. So kind of using everybody's background knowledge and things that they're kind of seeing throughout the area and putting it all together to have that be a creative piece.
I know Brad does his commercials, and I'm not trying to one up that, but we are hiring, and I'll let him talk more about that after. But now I think would be a good time if anybody has any questions or thoughts or anything that they maybe have in their program that they want to share with us that is supportive. And if not, that's okay. I know we're a few minutes over, and I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I think for me, the most important things that I want to reemphasize in if our program, or if you could take one thing away, be our mentoring, the opportunities that come with that. I mean, even when I was a mentor last year, and that was my 11th year. It definitely gave me a great refresher on a bunch of things. So not even just for a first year teacher. And I just think everything we do with our professional development, those Google collabs, giving people a voice that want a voice, and they say, hey, I have knowledge in X, Y, and Z. And I think, I'd like to share that. So, letting people speak their experience out and getting that out for us to take bits and pieces from is what makes us a really successful and collaborative group. Ashley, you have anything else before I turn it back over to Brad?
No, thank you for kind of summing all that up. But yeah, I think it's just letting everyone have their voices heard. It's a big county and just trying to figure out, but there's plenty of ways to get everyone involved in your program.
I'm just looking back over the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley and Jeff. And certainly there was some good conversation occurring in the chat. So thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat and asking all those questions and having that great conversation. This is a very strong program that is based on a great, strong history of very dedicated, passionate individuals. And so that passion and dedication kind of helped us build upon every year to where we are right now. And, Jeff and Ashley have been in the program for a number of years and are two people really that are the building blocks to why we are so successful. And, they shared a little bit about what they did, but it really doesn't go to the extent of what they really do to support teachers that come into the program and the teachers that are in the program. I constantly reach out to both of them for support and guidance as well. So we are very lucky here to have such a strong program and really do wonders for our students within Fairfax County. Thank you very much, Ashley and Jeff, for sharing your session.